All right, Algebra 2, welcome to your Game Plan 4.4, 4.6 video. Today we are brought to you by Caldy's Coffee. They're in the house with two fine products. Fair Trade Organic Natural High, tasty, and the delightful Highlander Grog. Yes, pick yours up at your nearest Schnucks or Dewbergs. There you go. We're going to start here on page 5. Again, your game plan is due Tuesday when you walk into class. A little shout out to the boys basketball team. Just checked on Twitter that you're now 6-1. Fantastic. Big day for basketball as my Salukis play SEMO Boo tonight. So there you go. Go Dogs. We should have done this one in class, but here is the answer. Find the center and the radius of the following circle. Hint, hint, wink, wink. This could be a very good bonus question. I just finish the last touches on your test. That will be Wednesday. You can use notes for this. One of the few opportunities you'll have this year with that. Complete the square, half of -8 squared. Then you add 16 to the other side. You take half that middle term 4, square it, add it to the other side. That's how they factor. There you go. On page 6 here, folks, page 6. Was the quadratic formula x equals -b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Always check this. If it's a negative, you got to take out the I, take the square root of 4, it's 2. That's why that one simplifies pretty nicely there. Now on this one, it really just takes 2 steps. X equals -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. 25 minus 12 is 13. The square root of 13 is a decimal, so you're done there. All right. Next page, I have quite a few answers here on page 7. On page 7, there's the answer number 5. X equals -b plus or minus square root b squared minus 2ac all over 2a. You get the point there. Square root of 180 can technically break down to 6 root 5. I'm going to let you leave it as root 180 since it is a decimal. Here's the answer there to number 6. Again, always try to see if it will factor. Nothing multiplies to 5 and adds to 8, so that's why I use quadratic formula. Root 44 is a decimal. We're going to leave it like that. All right. This next one, you get 64 minus 40 in the square root. So that's the square root of 40. Again, 2 root 10 is what it simplifies to be. For the 2 people that are watching this that aren't my students, don't you out the video. If I don't make that 2 root 10, we're going to leave it like that. All right. Got to move everything over to the left side here. X squared plus 6x minus 5 is what that becomes. It looks like it does want to factor. Some students are going to put like 5 and 1, but 5 and 1 multiply to give you positive 5, not negative 5. Quadratic formula gives me root 56 in the square root, which is a decimal. And here the answer. Now, I did factor this one. Guys, if you did the quadratic formula, you would have something in the square root. It looks like 121. 121, folks, is 11. The square root of 121 is 11. You'd have to break that down more. So I just factored that. That is your answer no matter how you do it, okay? Big fan of this question. You'll see this one again on your test. Do b squared minus 4ac to comment on the answer. That's the number inside the square root. If the number inside the square root is negative, you have 2 imaginary solutions. 15, the number inside the square root is positive, so you have 2 real solutions. Talking about b squared minus 4ac. That's the discriminant. Make sure to write that down. If b squared minus 4ac is 0, then it has 1 real solution. All right, page 9 here. I have several answers. Here's the answer to number 3. All right, just pause it. If I'm going too fast here, square root of -44 means I root 44. Try the square root of 44, you get a decimal. Next one here, 4 minus 32. That's I root 32. I'm going to leave it like that. This next one does factor. Everyone please factor that. What multiplies to 32 differs by 4, 8, and 4. Get a simple answer. If you use the quadratic formula there, I think you get the square root of 144 inside the square root, which is 12. It takes a lot longer to simplify that, okay? If it has nice answers, you got to tell me what they are. Number 6 is definitely going to use the quadratic formula. Square root of 153 is 12 point something. It's a decimal. There you go. And so 8 is an example of one that will factor, but I'm sure a lot of us are going to use the quadratic formula. You get 289. When you type in the square root of 289, you get 17. So this is how you would have to simplify it. You would do -7 plus 17 over 6, that's 10 over 6 versus 5 over 3. You do negative 7 minus 17 over 6, negative 24 over 6, negative 4. All right, this next one, quadratic formula, you get negative 47 inside the square root. That's I root 47. All right, please make sure to know how to do the quadratic formula. You're going to have 8. You're going to have 8 to solve for x questions and equations on the exam, on the test Wednesday. This one does factor. Okay, it's a relatively easy one to check. Again, one of them's got to be positive, negative. It's got to be 5 and 1. It's got to be 2x and x. This is 5x minus 2x. That gives you the 3x that you need. Again, if you use the quadratic formula on this one, gonna have to simplify it fully. Should have done 12 in class. Anytime you have x squared and a constant, just move the constant over. Divide by what's attached to x squared. Take the square root. Square root of a negative 9 is plus or minus 3i. Here's 14. It looks like it wants to factor. What multiplies to 9 adds to 4. Doesn't exist. Quadratic formula gives me the square root of negative 20, so that's I root 20 right there. Again, if you call that 2I root 5 and ultimately negative 2 plus I root 5, you are correct. This next one, 4 and 2 give you 8 and differ by 2, but we're not asking for what differs because it's a positive 8. So this one doesn't factor. Get the square root of negative 28, which is I root 28. There you go. Again, 16 does factor, x minus 9, x plus 8, set it equal to 0. On this next page, page 11 here, folks, just simply add 5 and 8s and then negative 4i plus 2i. That is a 2i, not a 7i. You get 13 minus 2i. First outer, inner, last, just make sure that I squared is a negative 1, like I show on the right side. 6 plus 5 is 11. 11 plus 3i. This next one here, 36 minus 12i plus 12i minus 4i squared. You get 40. 9 plus 7, 3i plus a negative 3i. This next one, anytime it's squared, just write it twice. First outer, inner, last. The 15i's combined, they don't cancel to give you 30i. 9i squared is a negative 9 there. 5 minus I, 5 minus I. There you go. And number 12. You're subtracting. Okay, page 12. You guys only had to do A, B, and C on 1 and A and B on 2. We should have done page 13 together. Top of page 14. First outer and last, you have conjugates, which we'll talk about on Monday and Tuesday. They will be on your test. Conjugates are very easy to find. Write it twice, first outer, inner, last. That's how that simplifies. Again, I squared, you cannot leave I squared in your answer. I squared is a negative 1. Always changes the sign there. And continuing on page 14, that one's factors very easily. X minus 4, x minus 8 equals 0, so x equals 4 and 8. Here, folks, when you're missing, if you ever have a b value of 0 or a c value of 0, do not use the quadratic formula. Here, just factor out what they have in common. They have a 4x. So we will do that, leaving you with 4x equals 0, x minus 10 equals 0. This next one here, move the 30 over, divide by 6, x squared equals negative 5. Take the square root of negative 5, that is plus or minus I root 5. On page 15, got the top two here. These will definitely be on your test Wednesday. To complete the square, take half the middle term and square it. What multiplies 25 adds to 10, x plus 5, x plus 5. This next one, take half of the middle term. Negative 9 over 2 is negative 4.5. We're not going to leave it like that. We're just going to square it next. 81 over 4, x minus 9 over 2 squared. Page 16, I have a lot of answers. We use the quadratic formula here on 11. You get I root 12. That's what comes out of the square root there. Next one, you want to move the 4x over and then divide everything by negative 1. You want x squared to be positive. Use the quadratic formula there. Number 13, we're going to factor out the x they have in common. Cover-up method gives you x equals 0, then 5x plus 9 equals 0. Move the negative 6x squared over. Now it's 6x squared on the left side. Use the quadratic formula there. This next one, 15 looks like it wants to factor. Nothing multiplies to 9 and adds to a -2. So use the quadratic formula there. I root 32. Square root of -32 is I root 32. Finally, this is another example of something that would factor. I'm sure a lot of us want to use the quadratic formula. Also, just move the 33 over, so it's -33 equals 0. Square root of 625 is 25. So you have -19 plus 25 over 4. That's 6 over 4, 3 over 2. -19 minus 25 over 4. -44 over 4, which is -11. Then on page 17, you got quite a few answers. I'm going to move the 15 over. Then I'm going to divide by 5. This one does factor nicely. 2x minus 1, x plus 3. Use guess and check. Again, in quadratic formula can be used. That's fine. You got to simplify your answers. This next one, definitely have to use the quadratic formula. That's the answer we get. So you can pause this whenever you need to. Try to finish this video in the next 4 minutes here. I use the quadratic formula. Again, move the 1 over, so it's -1 equals 0. But it could factor, as the answers will show us. Okay. Divide both sides by 3. X squared equals 16. Take the square root. Square root of 16 is 4. X equals plus or minus 4. Factor out the 5x they have in common. Then you have 5x times x minus 4 equals 0. 5x equals 0. X minus 4 equals 0. Those are your two answers, 0 and 4. On page 18, let's look at the top right there. 10 minus 5 is 5. -9 minus a -4i is -5i. Okay. Here, just write it twice, first, outer, inner, last. You're going to have like 3, I think you have 4 questions involving I on your test. And Yogi there is sneezing in the background. All right. Page 19 we did together in class, only has 3 questions. I'm going to add 25 to the other side. Folks, what multiplies to 25 adds to 10, 5, and 5. You have one real answer there. X equals -5. This next one, use the quadratic formula. There is our answer. Next one, I use the quadratic formula again. The square root of -8, I root 8. Again, some of you might have 3 plus or minus I root 2. That's totally fine. And getting to the last few pages, page 21 here, number 7, quadratic formula. A lot of students are going to put x minus 3x plus 1, that multiplies to a -3, not a +3 there. In fact, we get I root 8 that comes out of that square root. Quadratic formula must be used on number 8 here. We get another answer with I. You can pause this video whenever you need, rewind it. I'm going to go through the answers here relatively quickly for the ending pages. Here we could have factored, because the square root of 64 is 8, and when that happens, you've got to give me those answers. All right, last few pages here. Page 22, guys, move the 11x and the 10 over. 1 multiplies to 10 adds to -11. X minus 10, x minus 1. There you go. Next one, move the 10 over, then divide by 2. Quadratic formula time. There you go. Some of you might have -1 plus or minus root 6. That is good. Here, I have to use the quadratic formula. When you get the square root of -4, yes, it's I root 4, but the square root of 4 is 2, so you do need to simplify that. 1 plus or minus I, interesting. And the last page does have 15 questions. Well, maybe that's something we work on Monday. Factor out the x they have in common. You have x minus 7 equals 0. 2, divide both sides by 4. Then you do have some x squared equals 8. Take the square root of both sides, like I did there, and then add 2 to the other side. Here, quadratic formula. All right. What's next? Number 6, just move the 9 over. You could call it x minus 3, x plus 3 equals 0. It doesn't matter, you get plus or minus 3. Multiply 16 adds to 8. You get x plus 4, so x equals -4. Here, quadratic formula. Next one, divide everything by -1. Quadratic formula. And the last answer there. Folks, move the 10 over, divide everything by -1, just switch the signs. Quadratic formula time. Boom, there it is. Just under 15 minutes, folks. This is your Chapter 4, 4.4 to 4.6 game plan. This is Yak Math Video signing out.